Hi, Happy New Year! I'm Hazel. This is my channel Read Flag, where we talk about art and books and life and philosophy and all of those fun things. So today I wanted to talk about this book. This is my first nonfiction read of the year. This is Letters of Vincent van Gogh. This is, as you guessed it, letters written by Vincent van Gogh. And I also wanted to talk about how we can change how we engage with art this year, or at least how I am planning on changing how I engage with art. And what I mean by that is, so there's a couple of ways that you can engage with art. Let's say you're reading a book and you are making your little notes in the margin. That's one way that you're like present and you're engaging with the book and you're like learning from it and all of that. It's great. And then you finish the book and you put it aside and then you forget about it, right? The other way you can engage with it is to do what I'm doing right now. You talk to a bunch of strangers on the internet about what you read and what you write and what you like, and that's great too, unless you have like a really small channel and then nobody's talking back to you and then you're going a little insane. The other way that people go about this is they make notes, right? So if you've heard of Zettelkasten, this is a way of sort of documenting your thoughts, your reflections, your ideas, and then interlinking all of these notes and thoughts together. So you've built a web of knowledge for yourself. So if you're interested in this method, but you feel like digital note taking is limited and you want to like really interact with the page and you want to like write down and journal, but then those journals get over and then you don't have everything in one place, I have come up with a system where you're basically doing a hybrid Zettelkasten. So this way you can do it analog as well as like turn your notes into your digital Zettelkasten so that you have everything in one place. Anyway, the problem with all of this is that it's great to journal, it's great to make your little notes and be cute and everything, but everything is sort of, you're just interacting with yourself. Even when you are getting your thoughts out, you're still in a bubble, in your own bubble. So then what's a way that you can turn that monologue into a dialogue, right? How can you engage mindfully, meaningfully, having all of these thoughts and opinions and reflections? You want to share them with people, but you also want to like get it back. You also want this to be like a two-way thing. You want to expand your perspectives and your knowledge even more. Well, the answer is actually on the front cover of this here book. Letters. Did you get it? It's Letters. So I've been reading this book and it is so amazing because it's basically just a collection of Van Gogh's letters that he wrote mainly to his brother Theo about his religious struggles, his artistic struggles, his struggles with mental health, with love. But also this was a man who was so soft and kind, and he understood things, he thought about things, he loved so much, he loved his brother so much. I still haven't finished this, by the way. I'm only like 57 pages in, but he read a lot and he observed a lot and he communicated those thoughts and feelings with the people he loved, and he made a lot of mistakes, but he was also, just from what I can already tell, full of so much insight and care and love. But the point is, I've been reading these letters and I've been thinking, why don't we do that anymore? I mean, obviously we don't do that because like we have all these apps and all of this really easy accessible forms of communication which make us brain dead. But I think like we should go back to this, and I think I am going to go back to this. And so that's what I want to talk about in this video, about how we should go back to letter writing. And this can be to your friend, to your family member, to your acquaintance, about what you're reading, what you're doing, what your day was like, what film you watched, what art you made, what newsletter you read, like anything and everything. And so these are a few reasons I want to give you. So whenever I look down, I'm looking at my notes. So the first reason why I think that you should write letters is okay, I'm going to read you a little quote so you'll understand what I mean. Alright, so this is a little extract from a letter that Van Gogh wrote to his brother Theo on August 1876. So he's describing like this scene, alright? He's describing like this landscape, and he writes, "The landscape through which the path runs is very beautiful, brown heathland with birches and pine trees here and there, and patches of yellow sand. And in the distance the mountains against the sun. Truly, it is not a picture, but an inspiration. I am writing to you between lessons. Today I took a few moments off to go for a walk between the hedgerows with John and Theogenes to study it. How I wish you could just see the playground and the garden beyond, now, in the twilight." And like, when was the last time that you saw something like nature, like mountains and the sea, and you thought, hey, this is so beautiful, I'm going to like reflect on it, I'm going to like seep it in, and I'm gonna communicate this feeling to someone, this sublimity or this feeling of like, I'm looking at something that's so beautiful and wondrous and so much larger than me, and I really want to sit and describe this to someone. When was the last time that happened? Because we just sort of, we'll realize how beautiful it is and we'll take a picture and we'll post it on our Instagram stories, but like that's not the same thing. And so the first reason I have for writing letters is to elevate pleasure, to feel joy, to feel contentment, basically to feel anything at all. Because I feel like with social media and all of this shortest of short form content that we consume all the time, and we're so overwhelmed with information constantly, it's just one thing after the other, we've lost not just the ability to feel things deeply, but also the time period for which we feel any sort of feeling that is positive, at least, has just shrunk, I think, so rapidly, because we're just moving from worry to worry, because like the world sucks right now and everything's awful. But I've written, we're constantly being distracted and overstimulated, so we rarely seep in. Writing helps with this, because when you're writing, you're just being honest. Because when you're writing, two things are happening. Before you even communicate something to the other person, you realize it in your head. So it's two things that are happening. The act of communication is not just happening from you to the person you're writing about, but you realize that, hey, I have thoughts, which like social media and not just social media, but also like things like WhatsApp or text or calls or the other ways that we communicate online, you're not getting much richness or depth out of it, because everything is very surface level. But when you sit down to write, you don't have to pretend, you don't have to think hard, you just do it naturally. Whatever comes out, it comes as a surprise to you, the writer yourself. Like, I had this thought, I realized this, I think like this, and I didn't even know it. And so that's one reason, to like really absorb something, to seep it in, to realize what you yourself feel, to achieve clarity of thought and develop it and realize your own reflections, your own opinions, and to like really sit and absorb your feelings before they just are swept over by the next notification, the next task, the next thing that someone else is saying, screaming to you on your phone. The next reason you should write letters is, by writing a certain way, you become that feeling. You become kind, earnest, engaged, curious. And that's because you're being honest. You're not pretending. Which is not to say that when you're meeting offline, you're pretending or you're being false or you're wearing a mask. Well, sometimes you are, but it's just that I was reading this book, and I also read some of this book by Helene Hanff. I think that's her name. I forgot what the book's name is. I'm using it as a book stand. It's called 84 Charing Cross. It's what my phone is propped up against right now. Basically, even that book is a collection of letters that this writer wrote to this owner of a bookshop. And there's just something about letter writing, at least the letters that I have read so far, where like the feeling just seeps off the page and it's so natural. You can just tell that the person has become what they were feeling, in the sense that even now, this little passage that I read out to you about, that Van Gogh wrote to his brother about the landscape and everything, I've written, I think it's so nice when you describe sights and sounds and smells, naturesque or otherwise. It truly makes life romantic, and it is part of becoming happy by doing what makes you happy. In this case, nature gives you pleasure, and you can elevate that pleasure by writing about it, thus feeling it deeply. So this relates to the earlier thing I was saying about like feeling a feeling, but you also become engaged. You also become curious. You also become the thing that you are writing about. You also become the feeling that you are writing with, that you are writing about, because you allow yourself to actually feel something. Also, like, I think writing regularly helps like boost your memory, and it just keeps things that you are experiencing, it keeps them top of mind, so you feel like you remember things more and you know them better, in a sense, because you get to sort of re-experience the thing while writing about it. But if you think about our offline interactions, I personally have been craving a more deeper friendship, and something that's like beyond the surface of what I currently have with like certain friends. And I'm sure that like a lot of people also feel that way, because how often are we talking about things that matter? And this doesn't mean that you always have to have like a really deep, meaningful conversation with your friends. You can also just like chill and hang out, and that's great. But sometimes you crave for something deeper than that. It's weird that I'm suggesting actually not being with them to do that, and to do it on your own, to do it through the process of writing, but it somehow works. I think that our capacity to listen has also really shrunk. we just want to like wait till the other person finishes saying what they were saying so that we can like say our piece next. And that sort of lack of listening leads to poor communication, I think. But that sort of lack of pacing yourself and going a little slower it actually leads to, I think, a sort of disengagement. I'm struggling with like expressing what I want to express. Like, I know it here, it's not coming out. If I was writing, it would be coming out right now. I think writing can help you achieve that level of like patience and understanding that makes you be more present even in your offline conversations, in your in-person interactions. And there's also this lack of immediate feedback from the person you're writing to. There are no interruptions or notifications or other tasks. It's just you really sitting with what you were feeling, and not just sitting, you're like experiencing that feeling in your writing, and then that's leading to the next thought, that's leading to the next thought. It's this like beautiful symphony of all your thoughts that come out on the paper that then you send or give to the person you love, and it's something that they will really appreciate too. But the reason I'm saying that it helps you become that feeling is because you're just going slower, and that itself can be so refreshing and meaningful in like our age, in this age of just whatever it is that we're doing, whatever interaction even means these days. I think writing can unlock things that you didn't even know you had felt. Writing a letter especially, like, because when you're journaling, you're doing it in a bubble. When you're writing, you're doing it in a bubble. When you're texting, it's directed at someone, but it's not deep enough. But like sitting with a pen and a paper and writing a letter, that can be so deep. But at the same time, you're doing it for someone else. It's directed at someone else. And it's like, hey, this is a piece of me, and I wanted to share it with you. And that makes you caring, that makes you kind, that makes you open, that makes you honest, that makes you curious. Like, hey, what do you think, about what I had to say, about what I just wrote? Like, to be the sort of person who wants to slow down and wants to not just slow down for themselves, but wants to share that with someone they love, I think is beautiful. And it can make you more patient and slower and patient and more feeling, which is nice. The other reason I've written is it's a great way to deepen your relationship with the person who you're writing to and make it more meaningful. Because even if you're not talking about the most profound or poignant thing, any exchange between two people who love each other that's done through a medium of honesty, like writing, it does become a deeper exchange. It does become philosophical at times. It is born out of curiosity and interest, and it can be a new way for you to bond. So it might feel like a little awkward the first few times that you're writing, or even later, or whatever. It can feel a little like, why am I doing this? This person like lives in my city. I can just talk to them about this. But yeah, I think it's just like peeling a layer off of you, and it can feel a little vulnerable. It can be a little scary, but it can be new. It can be not easy, but I think it's worth it. And then this is something that if you're writing to a person in another city, like post it, have the whole experience, they write back to you. But even if it's someone like in your city, I wanted to do this with a friend of mine who lives in my city. And I've decided this year I'm going to start writing letters to different people. And I think that is also something interesting. Like, don't just do it with like one friend, with one person. You can do it like, I read a Marginalian newsletter that day that reminded me of my dad, and I thought that I would like write a letter to him. So I'm going to do that. And then for art I read or books I read, I want to talk about it with my friends. So I'll like direct it. So I'll like write letters to different friends of mine, and so you can do that as well. The last reason you should write letters is because it widens your perspectives, changes your opinions. You consider thoughts that you hadn't before, and it teaches you something new about the other person. This is when you're doing it in a like a two-way communication thing, and they are also participating in the process with you. It can be something really beautiful. So yeah, those are the reasons I think you should write letters. To wrap up, I wanted to read you some quotes from letters that I've read so far, just some of them. And these are basically when Van Gogh was talking to Theo about religion. But honestly, the time period during which he was writing these letters, he's like obsessed with religion at this point. But he also can't let go of art. So those two things are kind of merging together, and it's really beautiful to read. And also, I'm an artist, so I am seeing these quotes or these letters in the context of making art, and you can receive them in whatever context feels right to you. So the first one is, this is when Van Gogh says, this one is actually about art. My interest in drawing has died down here in England, but maybe I'll be in the mood again someday. Right now, I am doing a great deal of reading. And I felt like this was just amazing because he was so casual. Like, these were like two sentences that he just randomly wrote to his brother. And like a century and a half later, I am so stunned because this man was so casual in the way that he just said, it's okay. Like, let me go through it again. What is it? One more sec. Yeah, my interest in drawing has died down. I would freak out if my interest in writing died down. I would not know what to do. But he just goes like, maybe I'll be in the mood again someday. Right now I'm doing another form of art. Right now I'm reading. Right now I'm whatever. So like, I think this is a good way to look at it, that sometimes you could be in a slump of whatever art form that it is you're trying to create. And that's okay. Just nourish your soul in different ways. Go on walks. Van Gogh would walk a lot. So go on walks with people. Do it without even listening to music or podcasts or whatever. It can be beautiful. I have another video, I'll link it here, about different ways to go on walks. So check that out if you're interested. I think it's cool. And you can read, you can watch a film, you can write letters, you can journal, you can do whatever you want to do. So yeah, that was cool. Page 28. Okay, so this is when he's talking about religion, and I'm like reading out a part of that sentence. So he says, for those who believe, there is no death and no sorrow that is not mixed with hope, no despair. There is only a constantly being born again, a constantly going from darkness into life. They do not mourn as those who have no hope. Those who believe do not mourn as those who have no hope. So I think you gotta have hope and shit. I think you gotta remember that you've done it before so you can do it again and all of that. The way that this stuck out to me was that there's always gonna be times when I don't feel like making art and I don't feel like writing, and that too is part of the process. And this whole thing is just going from darkness to light. And you don't even have to see the part where, and I think that's the whole point, to see the part where you're not making art also as part of the process. It's not necessarily darkness. And then there's a part where you're not going to be making art well, or you're not going to be making good art. And that too is like, it's okay that you feel that way. Don't like beat yourself up about it. And then you will, through practice, through the process, you'll create something that you're proud of. And that is good too. So this whole thing is just being born again. This whole thing is just going from darkness to light. The next one I have for you is, these are all pretty self-explanatory, so I don't feel the whole need to yap a lot about these. Okay, beautiful. Are we what we dreamt we should be? No. But still, the sorrows of life, the multitude of things of daily life and of daily duties, so much more numerous than we expected, the tossing to and fro in the world, they have covered it over. But it is not dead, it sleepeth. Your art is not dead, it sleepeth. Very nice. The final one that I have for you, okay, this one's a bit long, but this one's really good. So it is good. Oh no, from the top. Okay. If only we try to live righteously, we shall fare well, even though we are bound to encounter genuine sadness and real disappointments, and shall probably commit real mistakes and do things that are wrong. But it is certainly better to be ardent in spirit, even though one makes more mistakes, than narrow-minded and overcautious. It is good to love as many things as one can, for therein lies true strength, and those who love much do much, and accomplish much, and whatever is done with love is done well. Love is the best and noblest thing in the human heart, especially when it is tested by life, as gold is tested by fire. Happy is he who has loved much, and is sure of himself, and although he may have wavered and doubted, he has kept that divine spark alive, and returned to what was in the beginning and ever shall be. If only one keeps loving faithfully what is truly worth loving, and does not squander one's love on trivial and insignificant and meaningless things, then one will gradually obtain more light and grow stronger. Yeah, and I think it can be hard to follow the artist's path when the world around you is doing different things. And this is, in some ways, we have it easier now with the internet and all of that, and in some ways it's tougher also. And then when you're living in like traditional societies or whatever, it's kind of hard to like follow your path always. But this particular part of like loving faithfully what is truly worth loving, I'm seeing that as like loving your art and not squandering your love on trivial and insignificant and meaningless things. I'm seeing that as like the kind of traditional paths that like society wants you to follow, or these things that you think are important. It could be money, it could be materialistic things, and I'm not judging. Like there's not necessarily always a right and wrong, but like I think you yourself and we, each of us but ourselves, should figure out what is the not necessarily always trivial, but what is the thing that's meaningless to us, and what is the thing that gives us joy and gives us meaning, and then be okay with the trade-off. Like be okay with people not understanding, or people asking too many questions, or whatever your trade-off is in your situation. Be okay with it, because the thing that you're doing, the path that you're pursuing, is giving you meaning, is giving you joy, is giving you something. So I'm gonna keep reading more of this, and I will have a lot more things to share with you, so stick around and such. Check out my other videos, comment on this video, let me know if you have read this book and what you think of it, and what are you reading these days, what movies are you watching, what thoughts are you thinking. Let me know, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.